Okay, so you're not gonna believe how this whole thing even started. It was like 2 in the morning, the kind of late where your brain just turns to mush and you're scrolling through absolute garbage on your phone just to feel something. I was deep, I mean deep, in this Reddit hole. I'd stumbled onto this subreddit, Are My Partner is an Idiot or something equally classy, and there was this post at the top. Thousands of upvotes, hundreds of comments. It was this girl talking about how her boyfriend tried to propose on a hot air balloon but dropped the ring. People were eating it up. Just loving it, and just like that, my brain, which was basically offline a second ago, just pings. It serves up this perfect little gem about Milo. My best friend Milo, right? He just started seeing this new girl, Amelia, and he'd told me in total confidence, obviously, about their third date. How he tried to impress her by cooking this fancy French dinner and ended up setting his oven mitt on fire, which then set off the smoke alarm so bad that fire trucks actually showed up. It was mortifying for him, but honestly, it was a killer story. So I'm sitting there, phone glowing in my face, and this little voice is like, do it. I mean, it's anonymous, right? It's not like I was gonna use their real names. I just call them Jake and Anna or whatever. It's just a funny anecdote for strangers on the internet. What's the harm? It's practically a public service, sharing a laugh like that, so I started typing. My fingers were flying, I jazzed it up a little, made the fire seem a bit bigger, his panic a little more cartoonish. Just for the drama, I read it over once, snorted with laughter, and hit post. And God, the second I did it, no guilt, not a single ounce. Instead, there was this buzz. This little jolt of adrenaline, like I just put a message in a bottle and tossed it into this giant, crazy ocean of the internet. I kept refreshing the page, just waiting. Not for disaster, but for the applause. I kid you not, I woke up the next morning and my phone had basically had a seizure overnight. It was just this constant, low-level buzzing on my nightstand, like an angry bee was trapped in there. For a second, I thought my alarm was broken, but no, it was Reddit. My lock screen was a solid, glowing wall of notifications. The post, it had blown up. Like properly gone viral within that little universe. It had something like 3,000 upvotes. My inbox, the little mail icon that's usually empty, was glowing a fiery, angry orange. There were hundreds of comments, hundreds, and they weren't just lol, people were writing paragraphs. OMG, this is the funniest thing I've read all week, one said. Another one was like, You're an amazing storyteller, please tell me there's a part two. I'm invested in Jake and Anna now. Someone had even given me a gold award. A complete stranger on the internet paid actual money to put a little gold star next to my story about Milo setting his kitchen on fire. Can you believe that? The feeling, God, it was better than coffee. It was this insane, anonymous rush of validation from a faceless crowd, and honestly, I was hooked. Instantly. For the next couple of days, I was riding that high. I'd check the post constantly, rereading the comments, smiling like an absolute idiot at my phone. It was more positive attention than I'd gotten in like the last 6 months of my actual life. I felt clever, witty, seen. Then that weekend, Milo called me. He sounded super down. Dude, he said, his voice all muffled like he was lying face down on his couch. I think I really screwed up with Amelia. And the first thought that popped into my head, and God, it makes me sick to my stomach now, it really does, wasn't, oh no, what's wrong, man? It was, ooh, content. It was like a switch flipped in my brain. The friend switch turned off, and the content creator switch buzzed to life. He started telling me about this stupid, tiny argument they'd had over where to go for dinner, but it had spiraled into this whole thing about him not listening to her. He was genuinely hurt and confused, asking for my advice. He was being a real friend, turning to his best friend for help, laying his vulnerabilities out on the table. And me. I was listening, yeah, but it was like I had this sick little filter on. I was taking mental notes. He gets defensive when criticized. She thinks he's emotionally unavailable. This is perfect for the next installment. I was a goddamn vulture. Just picking apart his actual real-life pain for my next hit of internet karma. I gave him some bullshit generic advice. Just talk to her, man. Communication is key. That kind of crap. Just enough to sound supportive and get him off the phone so I could start typing. The sequel they'd all been begging for was practically writing itself. That second post did even better than the first. It was like I'd created a TV show and the audience was desperate for the next episode. But to keep them hooked, you have to raise the stakes. That's how it works, so that's what I did. The funny anecdotes started getting darker, more personal. The line I told myself I would never cross became a blurry smudge in my rearview mirror. I started digging deeper, mining our entire history for content. I wrote about the way Milo gets really quiet and withdrawn when he's stressed, something he's always been incredibly self-conscious about. I framed it as him being moody and dramatic. Then I committed the ultimate sin. I brought up his ex-girlfriend, Sophia, the one who really did a number on him a few years back. He'd told me all about that one night after his dad's funeral, sitting in his car, the windows all fogged up. He told me how much it had messed with his ability to trust people, how he felt like he was fundamentally broken. It was one of the most honest, raw, and sacred conversations we'd ever had. And I took that entire raw, painful experience and twisted it into a juicy, one-paragraph backstory for Jake. I wrote, he has some serious baggage from his last relationship, so he's always looking for problems where there aren't any. He basically self-sabotages. I hit post, and my God, the comments section lapped it up. They went wild. Classic avoidant attachment style, one armchair psychologist wrote with absolute certainty. Anna needs to run. This guy is a walking red flag, said another. I was no longer a friend. I was a narrator selling out my protagonist's soul for clicks. It became a game. How far could I go? I revealed things that were so far over the line, I couldn't even see the line anymore. I talked about his weird little habit of organizing his bookshelf by color instead of alphabetically, something I knew he did to manage his anxiety. I turned it into a creepy, controlling quirk. I even mentioned the stupid, cutesy nickname he had for his car, a name his late father had given it. Every secret, every vulnerability he had ever shared with me in the sacred space of our friendship was now just another commodity to be packaged and sold to an audience of strangers. The whole thing felt less like a series of posts and more like an auction. What private, embarrassing detail can I offer up next? What part of Milo's life can I sacrifice to keep this anonymous crowd entertained for another day? And the sickest part? I felt powerful. It wasn't even Milo I was writing about anymore, not really. It was Jake, this character I'd created, and I was the one controlling the narrative, shaping how hundreds of people saw him. I was getting DMs from people saying, you should just tell your friend to dump him, he sounds toxic. They were talking about Milo, my best friend since we were 10. And I was the one who had handed them the stones to throw at him. Then it happened. The implosion. And it didn't come with a bang, it came with a phone call from a number I knew as well as my own. Jess, the third musketeer in our little group. I was at the grocery store, I remember, trying to decide between organic and regular kale, feeling all smug and important because my latest post had just crossed 5,000 upvotes. My phone buzzed, it was Jess. Hey, I answered all cheerful, what's up? Silence, just cold, dead air on the other end. Jess, you there? Don't, she said, her voice was flat. I'd never heard her sound like that, it was completely stripped of any warmth. Just don't, Raven. What are you talking about? I asked, and my stomach did this little flip-flop thing. I'm sending you something, she said. A second later, my phone pinged with a notification. It was a screenshot of my Reddit post, the latest one, the one about his ex-girlfriend. How did you? Amelia's cousin is a huge Redditor, Jess cut me off, her voice like ice. She recognized the story about the oven mitt, it was so specific. She sent it to Amelia, and Amelia, she found the rest. She found everything. The world just stopped. The bright lights of the grocery store, the music, the squeaky wheel on my cart, it all just faded into this dull, roaring sound in my ears. She showed Milo, Jess continued, her voice breaking a little now, not with sadness, but with rage. She showed him everything an hour ago, Raven. He didn't call you, did he? No. He called me. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't form words. He didn't even say anything at first, she said, and now she was crying angry tears. He just handed me his phone and I had to read it all of it. I had to watch his face as I scrolled through this public dissection of his entire life written by his best friend. He looks broken, I've never seen him look like that, not ever, he said to me, I thought she was family, Jess. That's what he said, and you know what, he's right, he treated you like family. And you took that trust and you sold it online for fucking upvotes. The line went dead, she'd hung up on me, and I just stood there in the middle of the produce aisle, staring at a bag of kale, feeling the weight of what I'd done crash down on me all at once. It wasn't a game, it was a betrayal, and the person I had betrayed wasn't a character named Jake. It was Milo. Milo never called, he never texted. I kept waiting for the angry, screaming phone call, the barrage of furious messages. Honestly, I would have preferred it. I was prepared for a fight. I had my excuses ready, my pathetic, it was just a joke, man, I didn't mean it, defenses all lined up. But what I got was so much worse. It was silence. A deep, profound, and meticulously calculated silence. The real execution happened about 2 days later. I was sitting at home, endlessly refreshing my phone, jumping at every phantom buzz, when a notification popped up from our main group chat. The usual suspects, the one with our core 6 friends, the one that had been buzzing daily with memes, plans, and bullshit for the last 5 years. It was a message from Milo. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I could feel it in my throat. This is it, I thought. He's going to tear me apart in front of everyone. But there was no text, just a link. He had posted a single, clean link to my Reddit user profile, the page where every single one of my posts about Jake was listed chronologically, from the funny oven mitt story to the brutal vivisection of his deepest insecurities. He didn't add a single word of commentary, he didn't have to. The link was the accusation, the evidence, and the verdict all in one. It was a digital guillotine, and my neck was on the block. I watched paralyzed as the 3 little dots appeared and disappeared next to people's names. No one was typing. The chat, usually so loud and chaotic, went completely, terrifyingly still. It was the digital equivalent of a bomb going off in a crowded room, and everyone was just staring at the wreckage. Then it started. First, Liam left the group. Just that cold, gray system message, Liam left. My stomach lurched. Liam and I had been friends since college, then Jess left. Of course, one by one they vanished. My social circle, the foundation of my adult life, was being dismantled in real time, right before my eyes. I tried messaging them individually, my fingers fumbling on the screen. Guys, please just let me explain, it got out of hand. The messages to Liam and Jess went through, but were met with a wall of silence. When I tried to message the others, I got that sterile, automated notification. This person is not receiving messages from you at this time. They had blocked me, all of them. Within 10 minutes it was over. The big group chat was gone. The smaller ones I had with them, the movie night chat, the fantasy football league, were gone. I went to Instagram, a place that used to be a comforting stream of my friends' lives, and my feed was suddenly empty. Barren, their stories, their posts, their tagged photos of us, all of it had vanished. They had systematically, efficiently, and silently excised me from their lives. Milo hadn't just cut me off. He had taken the evidence of my betrayal and used it like a surgical tool to remove me from the entire social organism we had built together. It was a bloodless, quiet, and utterly devastating coup. My phone, once my source of validation, was now just a silent black monument to my own stupidity. The invitation had been sent out weeks before the implosion. Jess's 30th birthday party. It was at this little Italian place downtown, the kind of event you just don't skip. For a wild, delusional moment, I thought about not going, but then this even crazier thought took over. Maybe this is my chance. Maybe if I could just see them face to face, I could apologize. I could make them understand. God, I was so stupid. The second I walked in, I knew it was a mistake. The restaurant was buzzing with conversation and laughter, but as the door swung shut behind me, it was like a wave of silence rippled out from where I was standing. It wasn't a complete hush, but conversations near me faltered, heads turned, and then just as quickly they turned away, I saw Liam by the bar. I took a step towards him, a weak, apologetic smile plastered on my face. He met my eyes for a fraction of a second, his expression completely blank, and then he deliberately turned his back to me and started an intense conversation with the bartender about types of gin. It was like that with everyone. I was a ghost at the feast. I'd try to join a circle of people and they'd find an excuse to drift away. Oh, I need to find Jess. I think I'll grab another drink. They weren't even mean about it. It was worse, it was polite, seamless, and utterly chilling. They had all collectively decided I no longer existed, and then I saw him, Milo. He was in a booth in the far corner, surrounded by everyone, by my friends. He was laughing, a genuine, deep laugh at something someone said. Amelia was next to him, her hand resting on his arm. He looked happy, he looked free. He never once looked in my direction, not for a second. It wasn't that he was actively ignoring me, it was as if his brain had genuinely deleted me from his field of vision. I was nothing, a piece of furniture. The air, the sheer, suffocating weight of being so completely and utterly invisible in a room full of people I loved was more painful than any shouting match could ever have been. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, holding a drink I didn't want, a pariah in the middle of my own life. This wasn't a party. It was my funeral, and I was the only one who'd shown up to mourn. I couldn't take it. I slipped out of the party without saying goodbye to anyone, not that anyone would have noticed. The walk home was a blur. When I got back to my apartment, the silence was deafening. I grabbed my laptop, my fingers moving on autopilot, and went to the one place that felt like the scene of the crime, Reddit. I pulled up my profile, my monument to idiocy. All the posts were still there. I scrolled through them, my stomach churning, reading the words of a person I didn't even recognize anymore. The upvotes, the awards, the fawning comments from strangers, it all looked so pathetic. So cheap, my eyes landed on the last post, the one about his ex. There was a new comment at the very bottom, posted about an hour ago, my breath caught in my throat. The username was simple, ems-1994, his initials, his birth year, it was him. My hand was shaking as I clicked to read it. I braced myself for a paragraph, a tirade, a final, brutal takedown, but it was just one word. A single seven-letter word that hit me harder than a physical blow, pathetic. That was it, that was all he had left to say to me. I just stared at it, the black letters on the white screen burning into my brain. Pathetic. He was right, it was the perfect word. It summed up everything. Selling out your best friend for the approval of strangers you'll never meet? Pathetic. I refreshed the page, some desperate, insane part of me hoping the comment would disappear or change. But something else had changed instead. When I clicked on his username, it led to a dead end. This account has been deleted. He was gone, he hadn't just logged off. He had erased himself from the platform, severing that final, tiny digital thread that still connected us. He had dropped his judgment and then vanished, leaving me alone in the rubble I had created. I closed the laptop, the faint glow of the screen disappearing, and the darkness that filled my apartment felt absolute. I had won the stupid game, and my prize was nothing. Absolutely nothing.